Hello and welcome to the Retro Attic Mancave. Today I'm going to be looking at one of my favourite Games Workshop board games. It was brought out over 20 years ago in the year 2000 and the game in question, The Lost Patrol. This is a fantastic game when it was originally released, with one player taking the role of scouts and the other the Lurkers. The original game had 5 Space Marine Scout miniatures included inside the box. But the Lurkers, of which there were 18, were just simple card tokens, along with 30 map tiles, 3 dice and a rulebook. A great good value game for the time. It set the scene by stating that the gallant squad of Space Marine Scouts had landed on the world of Mares 3, and that your mission was to locate a crashed dropship. Cue, dropship. In order to escape, however, Mares 3 was no ordinary planet, but a deadly jungle world where even the plants were out to get you. Hidden among them are the ferocious alien monsters called the Lurkers, who are just waiting to pounce upon anything foolish enough to get close. To succeed in the mission, you must fight your way through the ever-changing jungle paths and return to said dropship in order to escape. Good luck, Space Marines, you're gonna need it. Anyway, move forward some 16 years and a second edition of Lost Patrol was released by Games Workshop in 2016. In addition to including 5 updated Space Marine Scout miniatures, the 18 Lurker tokens had been replaced with 12 Genestealers and 6 Infestation Markers to make the game more immersive. The map tiles still remained at 30, as did the 3 dice in the rulebook, and the rules themselves, pretty much in essence, stayed the same. So let's take a look inside the box and see what it comes with. So Lost Patrol, Death in the Jungle. The first thing you'll note, it comes with some simple instructions. The first of which is the instructions to put together the push-fit Space Marine Scouts. Very, very simple, not a lot of steps to this at all. What I can say is once these scouts are actually built, they do paint up really, really nicely. Which you'll see in the box later on. In addition to this, there are 12 Genestealer models, and again some very, very simple rules to put them together, and then you can then look online to see what sort of ways you want to paint these creatures up. A nice little touch I thought to the box is 2 pieces of artwork, and this one seems to feature some ultramarine, they look like ultramarine Space Marines. I mean, this is such a nice print, I would be tempted to actually put it in a frame and stick it on the Retro Attic Mancave wall. It looks that good. And there's also a second piece of artwork. They're green, so I'm guessing possibly salamanders, possibly, I don't know. Anyway, again, another lovely piece of artwork. And again, a nice touch to the game. Didn't need to include it, but I think that's really fantastic. And then we come to the rules. They're very small and concise, but the rules themselves are very well presented. It explains about how the tiles work. The board setup, as I say, is quite straightforward, and the board itself in every game actually changes as you're using a set of 30 tiles to lay down a route for the Space Marine Scouts to investigate upon. It talks about the simple combat. Each particular figure gets 2 actions, one of which for the Scouts would be to move and the other would be to fire. And in terms of the Genestealers, again quite straightforward for the actions that they get to do. They can either place a new Genestealer model as they keep coming on relentlessly as they get killed. You can set an Infestation Marker, which is an area where they can actually spawn from. And they don't have any shooting abilities, so the only way they attack is by grouping next to the Space Marine models. They don't actually throw dice when they're in combat. They have a simple multiplier of 2, 4 and 6, depending on how many models, 1, 2 or 3, are actually next to the Space Marine when they attack. The Space Marine actually throws a dice in combat and 6s kill. Anything other than that doesn't do anything at all. So it's quite tough on the Space Marines. I've actually slightly upgraded this box by a nice foam insert to keep all the miniatures in good condition. You can buy these online. There's 2 or 3 companies actually produce these. I just thought it was really cool because this one actually included the logo Lost Patrol on it. Inside you'll see that it's a really nice presented bookshelf game. Along the bottom we have the Space Marine Scouts. I've painted them up in the same artwork as on the box. This particular chapter is the Blood Angels. You get a Space Marine Sergeant who has extra benefits in combat, armed with a pistol and a chainsword. Then to back him up you have a Heavy, which is carrying a heavy bolter. He gets additional shots when it's turn to shoot. So he's a good backstop, providing covering fire to the rest of the scouts. The other 3 scouts are just simply armed with shotguns, and these form the backbone of the actual Space Marine Scout unit that's trying to escape with the drop pod. Their enemies are relentless. These are the Genestealers. As I said before, they don't actually have any melee attacks, but they have horrible sliding talons, and these can decimate the scouts when they get into combat. So the trick and the strategy of the game is to stop any Genestealers actually getting to you before they can attack. There's plenty of Genestealers in the box. They generate each turn, so as the scouts kill them, more are generated. Unfortunately, the scouts start with a finite group of figures, which is 5, and that only diminishes throughout the game. In addition to the actual Genestealer models, there's Infestation Markers, of which there are 6 in total of these. These can actually be spawned by the actual Genestealers themselves and placed on the various tiles around the board as it unfolds in front of them. These are a really cool way of actually getting more Genestealers closer to the Space Marine Scouts, rather than them just spawning at the sides of the board, which they do normally. Dice, of course, I'll not get these out, but the main part of the game left to get out is the actual tiles themselves. 2 stacks here of 15. The tiles themselves generate the map as you play the game. The starting point is this one, which is the clearing. The clearing is where the Space Marine Scouts set up. It's the only tile where you can actually have 5 Space Marine Scouts on one tile at any one time. Once the game unfolds and you start placing other tiles which spawn off and produce roads through the jungle for the scouts to go and explore. As you burn through these tiles, you can move on to them with the scouts, but in any particular tile you can only actually have 3 models in any tile at any one time. In addition to that, funnily enough, I've pulled out what's called a tangleweed tile as well. These particular tiles slow down the scouts, so once they get in there, it's harder for them to move out of that particular square. In essence, the game is very, very simple. The idea is to burn through the stack of tiles, and the last tile is, which you saw earlier, the drop pod. The drop pod tile is the very last one that will be placed on the board after you've burned through the other 29 tiles. If you can get 1 or more of the Space Marine Scouts onto this tile, then the scouts have won the game. However, the Genestealers can do sneaky things such as moving from tile to tile without taking the path. They don't get slowed down. As I say, they're relentless because they keep generating more and more models. The game actually doesn't come with a drop pod, but sometimes it's pretty cool to plonk that on the last tile, just to give you an idea of what the Space Marines are actually trying to make to. So, this is one of my favourite games that was ever produced by Games Workshop. It's great fun. One of the criticisms is that the Genestealers often tend to win the game. The game is biased towards them, so often if you're playing this Space Marine Scouts, it can be quite disheartening because you tend to lose. It's a very tough game. But that said, I think that's part of its charm. It's a challenge. So to actually get the scouts, or at least one of the scouts, to the drop pod by the end of the game without dying is an achievement in itself. What I tend to do is I play at least 2 games of this. Each game is only 20-30 minutes long. It's an in-between game. It's just a fun game to play in an evening if you've got a spare hour or so to play. If you actually change sides so that one person plays the Space Marines the first time, and then the second time the other Space Marine player is done by the other person, that way, even if you don't win, in other words escape using the drop pod, you can kind of say who won in total across the two games by seeing how many tiles were left at the end of the game. So in other words, you might get to the point where the other person's only got 3 tiles left, so he's done very well, he's burned through most of the stack. The other person might not have burned as many, so in essence that player won even though he didn't escape in comparison to the other players. That's how I tend to play, at least 2 games, rotating who plays the Space Marines and who plays the Genestealers. There's other things you can do with the game. As I said, it's very tough for the Space Marine scouts to win, so there are alternative lists available online. One simple upgrade is to replace the heavy bolter with a missile launcher, which means it devastates all the models on one particular square. So if you have a group of 3 Genestealers in one particular square rushing forward towards you, the heavy bolter would actually have to fire at each one individually. The missile launcher can kill them all with one rocket. That's one simple upgrade. Then there's other rules where you can actually start taking Space Marine squads. There's one I've seen that has a flamer, and there's even rules to actually take a Terminator squad, and one which allows you to play a Dreadnought as one single model with, I think, 4 wounds to play through the game. Anyway, this is Lost Patrol. I will at some point do a playthrough, but there's plenty of the playthroughs online. But as I say, this is a great pickup game. If you can get a hold of it, it can be quite difficult. As I say, it's 8 years since it was released. There's a finite number of copies produced, as often Games Workshop do with these bookshelf games, so it can be tricky to get a hold of a copy. But I'd highly recommend you grabbing a copy of Lost Patrol if you manage to see one. Anyway, have fun. This is the Retro-Attic Mancave, and I hope you enjoyed that quick look at the Lost Patrol, which is part of the Retro-Attic Mancave collection.